Hello, my name's Janet and I'm one of the wardens at APC. On the 18th of January this year, I had to leave work early because I had a temperature of 38 and a dry cough, and I had presumed COVID-19. I wasn't ill enough at that time to have a test, but I have subsequently had an antibody test through my work which did confirm that I had COVID-19. For the next 3 days I mainly slept and took fluids and took paracetamol. And when I wasn't sleeping on the sofa in my isolation room, I was watching television. And there were a lot of harrowing stories of people describing their symptoms deteriorating, and really sad stories of relatives being taken off to hospital in ambulances alone. And I wondered if I'd get a lot worse. I knew that there were people praying for me, and I was really grateful for that. After 3 days, I'm glad to say I began to improve. And after 7 days, I was allowed out of my isolation room, and I remained socially distant from those in my home. And we waited for that 7 days to see whether I'd infected any of them, and I'm very happy to say I hadn't. And we were then free. And I began to get ready to go back to work. It took another week to regain my strength. But what I realised was I was waking up early in the mornings with quite a lot of anxiety about going back to work. I was worried about the new working practices and guidelines which seem to be changing every day, and having to learn new skills to be able to work remotely with new technology, and the fear that one might be distracted by technology and miss something important or make a mistake. And I was worried about my family, some of whom are older than me and would therefore be more vulnerable should they get COVID-19 from someone else, even though they hadn't got it from me. And I started to worry about whether I'd have to face bereavement, as so many other people were at that time. And I was reminded of a verse that God gave me a few years ago. That was a time when I had a lot of disruption happening in my life over 8 months. I had to cope with moving house twice, one son leaving home to go to university, the other son moving out into his own flat, and moving away from Bradford, where David and I had lived for 12 years, and so moving to a new place here in the West Midlands, new job, new church, new friends, and all within 8 months. And God gave me this wonderful verse which came to me just during my regular morning Bible study notes. It's from Psalm 125, verses 1 and 2. And it says this: "Those who trust in the Lord are like Mount Zion and will never be shaken. As the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people, both now and forevermore." And as soon as I read it, I knew it was going to be important for me as I faced that 8 months. And so I memorised it. And many times, as I had to make the adjustments of those changes and let go of various things in order to be able to make a new start down here, those verses sustained me and helped me. And so, as I lay awake, now anxious about going back to work, those verses came back to me, and I realised that as I'd received strength from them before, I needed to do that again now. And as I recited those verses to myself, the first thing, which was really good, was it enabled me to go back to sleep. And I found that actually they helped me to focus on Jesus and the fact that he was with me and was going to give me strength, and that was really helpful. And that picture of the Lord surrounding his people as the mountains surround Jerusalem gave me a confidence that God was surrounding my home and my family. And so I started to get ready to go back to work. And on the morning that I was going to go back to work, I was woken early by a strange noise, and I couldn't believe it. Our dog was having an epileptic fit. He'd never had one before, and I thought he was going to die, to be honest. And David came and we prayed over the dog, And we'd never done that before, but we did, and the fit stopped. And I had to go to work, just trusting that God would somehow see me through that day after that really strange beginning. And he did. And for dog lovers, I should tell you at this point that the dog has now been started on medication and he's doing very well. And so I found that God enabled me to have strength to get back to work, even though I was anxious about it. And then about a month later, we had another health issue in our family. I had to take one of my sons to hospital with suspected appendicitis. Obviously, that was still during the whole COVID situation, so I couldn't go in with him. And as I was sitting in the car park waiting outside, that verse came to me again, and the reminder that the love of Jesus is surrounding my whole family, even though we weren't together. But as the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people now and forevermore. And that was an encouragement to trust Jesus at that time. And so I found that verse really helpful. And I found it particularly helpful because I memorised it, and so I could just bring it to mind when I needed it. And so that's been my experience. So why not consider finding a verse that helps you and memorising it? Many of us have got ongoing anxieties to do with COVID and now the economic uncertainties which are following. So let's remember that Jesus is with us through all of our anxieties. He's the one who we can trust.